everyone, and welcome to the analysis of the Pteranodon Species Field Guide for Jurassic World Evolution. It's going to be an off-the-cuff, spontaneous kind of analysis. I'm just going to go through it with you with my little dandy slider over here. We're going to go through it frame by frame and see what we can see. And we're seeing a lot of cool stuff, not gonna lie. Of course, we had the Dimorphodon last week, so I'm already getting Discord messages from people with the theory, okay, so the first 5 were land dinosaurs. Now we've had 2 air reptiles, flying reptiles. Does that mean, this is a new pattern? Does that mean we're going to get now 5 flying reptiles and then 5 marine reptiles? Is that a possibility? I think it's too soon to tell. Could just be that they're bundling the Dimorphodon and Pteranodon together, because so far they are still following the schedule of a dinosaur we know from the first game, a dinosaur that's new to Jurassic World Evolution 2, and, back and forth, back and forth. So, I'm considering everything still up in the air, if you would. Up in the air is, of course, also the Pteranodon. We have a beautiful flight motion over here. We are, of course, looking at a different skin. This one is a silvery gray with a crimson red on the top. So that does confirm what we already suspected, really, and why wouldn't it be that case? That the same skin system that applies for all of the dinosaurs applies to the Pteranodon as well. What I actually find really interesting to note about this is not so much the Pteranodon, although it has a nice flight pattern. It does when it turns, it's a little bit jarring, and we'll look at that at the final clip in the Species Field Guide as well. But what I really want to focus on is just the aviary we're looking at, because it is absolutely massive. We have 1, 2, 3 of the dome structures that we see here, which is theorized to be how you build your aviary. You place a dome next to it, they automatically connect, and you build you expand your aviary that way. And the biggest we've seen so far was sort of like a triangular aviary with 3 domes in a triangular formation, which were interconnected, presumably automatically, to create what was thus far the biggest aviary. But this one is much, much bigger. With the placement of these domes, it's probably maybe an octagon shape. So it's really, really big. And of course, we don't just want a big aviary for our Pteranodon. Perhaps we want a big aviary for something even bigger to take to the air. That's very promising. But yeah, it's really cool that we're now seeing just how far this aviary system can be used to stretch the size of the aviary. And I had previously theorized that the tanks, or the lagoons, if you will, work in the same fashion, wherein you place a circular tank next to it, they automatically connect. And I was kind of worried that, what's going to be the maximum size to that? Well, it looks like we can get some pretty decent sizes this way. I'm really curious to see how big we can go with this. That's very exciting. So that's what I wanted to note. What we're also seeing in the bottom right corner are the Pteranodon feeding on top of the fish feeder. But we're gonna get a much better look at that. There's also one, we can zoom in. There's also one right here. Here you go, here he or she is. Well, they're all she's. Wow, that's beautiful quality. But there's also one drinking right there. So they do the same thing that any normal animal in our park does, as we're used to from the first game. They eat and they drink. They have those animations. And that's not what we're used to from the Pteranodon in the first game. So it's always just good to see that. On top of that, in terms of the aviary interior, there's not much to note. They're landing on the ground, as we've previously seen. But this is really, they're really going for it. Look how deep they're going for it. But there you go. She wiggles up a fish and gobbles it down. And the other one lands next to it and waits to strike. What we also see in the background over here is this one. It approaches. Hold on, let me see. Let me see what happens over here. It turns very, very sharply. It basically turns in spot. And that's a little weird. And again, at the very last clip in the Species Field Guide, we're going to address that as well. But I want you to note it over here. See, it comes flying. It's facing the hatchery structure. It's flying, it's flying, it's flying, and right here it turns 180 degrees basically in place. That is quite the aerial maneuver for it to be able to land on the hatchery facing into the aviary itself. It's a little weird. I get that this is perhaps what they had to do. It would have been more natural if it just landed facing the hatching bay doors, and then while sitting it turned around. That would have been a more logical option to me. But I do want to note the positive here. I do think it's nice that they still recognize the hatchery as a ledge for them to land on. And I actually wonder what's going to happen if you were wanting to release a Pteranodon right now from the hatchery. Would it be like, oh, the hatchery is blocked currently, you can't do that, you didn't say the magic word? Or will it just sort of scare the Pteranodon away, or will they just fly over the one parked in front of it? That's kind of interesting, but I do like that they land over here. I'm just not too impressed with how that happens. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Turn it around. It's a little weird, not gonna lie. But yeah, maybe that's just the limitations of having to animate a flying creature. I do imagine that that is kind of difficult, but like I said, there's a solution. Just have it land first and then turn while it's already landed. Other than that, not much to note. Fish feeder looks exactly the same as we're used to. I must admit, I don't spend a lot of time looking at them up close, but they look very, very similar to what I'm used to. Some people had hoped that the fish feeder would work in the sense that, you know, the same way the goat feeder works, where it just sets the fish free to swim freely in the lake. Clearly, that's not going to happen. They're still contained within the square, the evolution square of the fish feeder. So, you know, on one hand, a bit of a shame. On the other hand, it is still a zoo, right? And zoo animals are just fed a certain way. So I'm not too miffed. You see that... What's going on over here? The feet... Hold on. I am confusion. Because right here, it looks like... If we're looking at the front, it looks like the structure of the feeder is above the surface of the water, right? And so if this one lands, why are its feet underwater if it's landing on top of this? That's a little weird. Maybe there's like a little bit of a framework around the visible frame that's slightly submerged that they can land on. That's probably what's happening. Do we see any water movements as it lands? There is a little bit of interaction with the water. There's like a tiny bit of rippling as it lands. And yeah, it does look like there's a little bit of an extended platform on the outer rim. Whenever I say outer rim, I think of Star Wars. I can't help it. But yeah, it looks like there's a platform there just under the water for them to land their feet on. And then the wings, the claws, land on the actual edge of the fish feeder. Okay, so with that done, let's move over to the very last clip. Also in the background, there's really... nothing of note. We see the hatchery, and we see over here in this corner, I think that might be the viewing gallery. There's a viewing tower in the background. We have some electricity lines. People said that they didn't see any electric cables in the previous showcases of parks, but here they are. Interestingly, it's just 2 of them. I don't know what that means. Possibly more underground cabling going on. That would be cool. I do think the cables are quite ugly. But let's move on to the final clip of this species field guide. You see just how extensive the damage is to this aviary. It could be the same aviary that we're seeing, so it's 4 domes connected, actually, now that I look at it. Yeah, it could be the same aviary as this one. And these 2 domes are the ones that are close together. We have them here as well, 2 close together. This one may be a little bit further apart. Let's see. It is technically possible. So it would be like a weird 4-sided shape. Not a perfect square, that's for sure. But, you know, that just opens up the possibilities of the amounts of shapes you can do. You know, if you place 4 hatchery for aviary domes, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to generate a perfect square. There's some more customization going on here that's quite exciting. But yeah, you can see it's broken in 3 spots that we can see. It might even be broken in more. That's possibly the result of a storm or something like that. Or maybe just 3 Pteranodon got pissed off at the exact same time and they didn't coordinate well and they just destroyed the aviary in multiple spots. That's also possible. But the way the Pteranodon just sort of turns mid-air, it makes quite a sharp turn. Or a sudden turn. It's not very sharp in terms of degrees. It might be a 45-degree turn or something like that. But it is very sudden. And that sort of falls in line with how we see this Pteranodon for the hatchery just really turn. It looks kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, they turn in place quite aggressively, let's put it that way. So their flight path isn't the most fluid. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I think we're also seeing more power cables in the background over here, by the way. That looks like the old monorail station, possibly. Look at that curving monorail, Jesus. Really getting the distance in, huh? Yeah, I think this is a monorail station. It's a little bit different. These sort of columns on top of it, those are definitely different because in the current game, the monorail station has like these amber columns on top of it, like or orange colored columns. They look like maybe they're supposed to be glass or something. These just look like angled concrete columns. So definitely that's a different monorail station than what we're used to in the first game. Always exciting to see new stuff. Other than that, I don't really think there's anything. You know, we have a beautiful mountain backdrop, but that's about it. So I am actually going to leave it at this. If I missed anything, please comment it down below if I missed something absolutely vital. I did miss something vital. Hold on a second. I didn't even look at the forum article. Ha, you were about to type that, weren't you? Like I said, this is completely unscheduled. I don't even know where to find the forum right now. There you go, forum. Alrighty, let me just quickly... Oh, someone pointed out, by the way, that I mispronounced piscivore or piscivore. Apparently you can do both of those. You can say piscivores. I'm so sorry. It's not an Evolution Square video unless I mispronounce something, okay? So they give some information about the Pteranodon. Oh, what I also actually wanted to note is what I find interesting is that in the voiceover of the Species Field guide, she noted the crest on the back of the head, right? That those were one of its most prominent features. And I don't know, them drawing attention to it is a little weird to me because, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the crest on these way too small? They're so stubby. Like, I've always thought this of the Jurassic World Pteranodon. They're so stubby when you compare them to the Pteranodon from Jurassic Park. Let's pull something up right here. Like, see, this is what we want, right? Well, maybe not necessarily like the toucan type coloring. This one maybe is a little bit shorter, but yeah, the crest is so much shorter on the Jurassic World Pteranodon than basically anything I'm seeing right here. So it confused me that they drew attention to that. That they were like, oh, it's such a prominent feature. And I'm like, yeah, sure, but where is it? That's not prominent at all. That's just like a little tip. It's just the tip. It was just a little weird. Anyway, let me look at this forum article. Pteranodon is a social animal and can get somewhat aggressive if they don't have other members of their species nearby. Actually, let me let you read that as well. Here you go. This is where we're at. Make sure to account for this when you're planning out their aviary so they can keep each other company. You will also need a fair amount of space for them to spread their rings, preferring a mixture of open space and wetlands environments surrounding them. So again, just like with the Dimorphodon liked sand. Pteranodon apparently likes to get its feet wet, so those are the in-depth kind of environment needs that our creatures are going to have now. Historically, Pteranodon lived in coastal environments, which is the motivation behind the high need for a wetland environment. Doesn't look particularly coastal, though. As with their cousin Dimorphodon, they'll start to expand their territory into the rest of your park if they manage to break out of their aviaries. They may also start taking swipes at your guests, and I want to see that so badly. Actually, I want to see them pick up my guests and toss them into the Mosasaurus Lagoon. You know where I got that from. So make sure you open up those shelters to protect your visitors from any and all attacking dinosaurs and flying reptiles. Pteranodon is a familiar face in a Jurassic World staple, and will be remiss not to include them in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Yada yada yada, we're excited to show you. Yada yada yada, please buy our game. I will. So that's about it. In terms of information, that's nothing groundbreaking. I mean, from the Dimorphodon, we already got that they had certain environment needs, and from the Dimorphodon, we also already got the attack guest, and that they build territories in your parks when they escape. So really, in terms of information, there's nothing new. It's a familiar dinosaur. They even said it in the Species Field Guide. So yeah, my question to you is, what do you think? Do you think the theory of 5 aerial Species Field Guides is coming up, so 3 more? Or do you think next week we're going to revert back to a dinosaur we already had in Jurassic World Evolution 2? I'm really curious to hear what you guys think of that. I'm gonna leave it off at this right now. I hope you enjoyed this spontaneous take on a video. I wanted to do it spontaneously because I'm already an hour behind. I had to take my pet to the vet, so if you want to give best wishes in a comment down below, that would mean a lot to me, honestly. So thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more of this, more Jurassic World Evolution 2, please consider subscribing to the channel, and leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Did I already say that? I don't know. I'll say it twice, because it's important. No, thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game!